Hello and welcome back. I'm Bo and it is time to judge our spending. So this particular page is from Caleb Hammer's budgeting course budget spreadsheet, and he just calls it a spending analysis. What it is that old rule that you should spend 50% on your needs, 30% on your wants, and 20% on your investments. However, the thing is here, 50-30-20 only really works if you make enough money so that your needs can fit within 50% of your spending. We do not. We do not make that kind of money. Partially because what we consider needs is not necessarily what everyone considers needs. So, for example, when my fiance, he wears through shoes rather fast, as in he will wear through a pair of shoes, like through the sole entirely, within about 4 to 5 months. So for him, buying shoes regularly is a need, because he's not going to be walking around with like his feet in plastic bags. That's not a thing. That's not a thing that we're doing. So if he is going to, not look unhoused, and look like he's a professional with a job, then he needs to have shoes that don't have holes in them. Same with like his shirts that he wears to work or his pants. Like, he needs to look presentable. He needs to not have holes in his clothes. So we have to buy clothes regularly. That's just how that goes. When it comes down to it, not everyone is going to have the same needs. You might not walk holes into your shoes. You might not. And then you don't need shoes as often. So you might buy shoes whenever you want to buy shoes, not necessarily when, there's a need. But that's, you get it. You get it. We all have different needs. Our needs happen to be a large percentage of our income. However, we were a little creative this month and we brought in 3 paychecks so that I could send a big chunk to win student loans, and also so that we could sign up for this app that can help with our ADHD. So our money got a little interesting this month. So let's get into it. It's been 3 minutes. It's about time. All right. So for our spending, I'm struggling with words, y'all. For our spending, just to be 100% clear, our total inflow was $11,546. That includes money that came out of savings, and it includes rollover from previous budgets. But that is not all the money we spent. We actually spent $8,460, which was 73% of our inflow. So that is the total that we're going to be working with here, because this is one of the issues that I have with the 50-30-20 is it doesn't account for people who use sinking funds or save up for things over time that might be wants or needs or whatever. The assumption is your savings is basically your emergency fund. But if you have sinking funds, that's not necessarily how that works. So we're just doing our spending, our actual spending, not our savings. So out of the $8,460, we spent $5,529 on needs. That was 65%, not 50. 65. I know, it's a struggle. We're aiming towards the 50. We're working towards the 50 if we can. And then wants was $734, which was 9% of our spending. And then investments was $2,197. That was 26% of our spending. So we actually spent more on investments than than we should, quote unquote, less on our wants and more on our needs. So we are sort of out of balance, but also we are doing the best with what we got, I suppose, is one way to put it. Another way to put it is we are purposefully imbalanced. So this is actually what I would prefer our budget to look like for now, because we have some debts that we need to pay off and we need to catch up on investments. But since we can't get our needs under 50% yet, that means wants and investments are gonna have to adjust accordingly. Ideally, we're trying to keep our wants under 10% so that we can send more money to investments. And what we call investments is things that will increase our income later. So paying down debt frees up income later. And also we're saving on that interest in the future. And then paying for school related things, and it is an investment as well, because once Win gets his educator license and he gets his certifications that he's trying to get, he will make more money. So those are basically our two categories of investments right now, because we're not investing in the stock market or anything like that right now, because our focus is mostly on debt. If you didn't know, Win started out this year with $68,000 in debt, which is considerable considering he only makes money 10 months out of the year. Sorry if I slurped that. I just had to take a little sip of my tea. So Win only gets paid 10 months out of the year. So we try to adjust things seasonally so that the money makes sense and so that we don't run out of it. So right now we're getting back into paying down his debt, which is very important to us. Win actually previously thought that he would always have his student loans. That is not the case. They're going to get paid off. They're absolutely going to get paid off. It's a struggle because neither one of us makes a lot, but we make enough so that we can make this progress. So I'm going to say this month was a success. Partially due to the fact that I pulled in another paycheck of mine. So I sent over $2,000 to a student loan. And we almost have his highest interest student loan paid off. So I'm super excited about that. It's not yet, but by the end of October, it is absolutely going to be paid off. And I, for one, am so ready for that. The next two loans that he has are actually his consolidated student loans are the next highest interest. And those have to be paid off at the same time. And that's about $30,000, $32,000, something like that. It's a lot. It's going to take us at least 3 years. But I feel like as long as we aim for spending more on investments than wants, I feel like we're going to be okay. Needs we have less control over. I mean, we do have some control over it. So it's like that whole thing where needs can be adjusted. So like, yes, we could find a different apartment that's cheaper. Chances are, though, if we find a cheaper apartment, there's going to be issues with transportation, with actual moving costs, and the new place might not be as safe, might not be as convenient, that kind of thing. So there's always trade-offs, but needs can be lowered. Sometimes that's a struggle, though. So, figure it out as you can. I mostly like having this video in my little rotation our little rotation, because it kind of puts a little different perspective on the spending. Because like we have a bunch of categories, right? We have all these categories, lots of categories of spending. And it feels like there's no real perspective on how much is actually necessary just looking at this whole list. Because there's always something else you could spend money on. There's always something else that you need or you want that's important to you in the moment. But I feel like this kind of pulls everything together in a different way. And I like looking at it. And I don't know, there might be other people who like looking at it too. If not, the views will tell me, and I'll eventually probably stop making these videos and just use this sheet for myself and for Win, obviously. I act like it's just me. It's really not just me. But yeah, I think it's important to keep things in perspective and to look at things from different angles so that you can thoroughly analyze what you're doing and see where you could possibly improve. So if I wanted to lower our needs, let's just look at it right here. If I wanted to lower our needs, let's go one by one, right? Again, we talked about rent. We can lower our rent, but it would require moving, and that new place might not be as safe, and also moving costs money. And not a lot of apartments that are cheaper than this have a washer and dryer. So then there's additional costs of laundry facilities and stuff like that. Could we lower kid bills? Unfortunately, no. This is the kids' insurance and their copays. And we don't have a choice in that, unfortunately. Like legally, we don't have a choice in that right now. Internet bill. Could we lower that? I don't know. Our internet used to cost more because we used to have Xfinity, and then we switched to AT&T, which was less expensive. We tried a few other services, but their speeds were so slow that it wasn't worth it. Like at that point, we may as well just use our cell phones as hotspots, and that can be spotty as well. Can we lower the collections payment? Yes, technically, but there's no interest on it, and at some point it needs to be paid. Let's be very real. Could we lower the electric bill? We try to turn lights off when we can. The AC has been running a lot because it's been like 80 degrees every day. Struggle's real. Can we lower adventure money? Absolutely we can lower adventure money and miscellaneous money. This is pocket money for the kids and Win. These two categories were not regularly funded before this summer. This summer, while Win was only working part-time, he started giving the kids allowance and started giving himself allowance. Could we end that? Absolutely. Are we going to end that? Absolutely not. The kids are starting to get to an age where they need to learn about how money works, and Win really struggles with not being able to spend money on like smaller things, and it's been kind of a struggle. So if they didn't have these two budgeted amounts, what would end up happening would be, if they want something, it would just come out of my side of the budget, but they would still have it. That's just how this will go. There's only so much that can be done without fighting, basically. And then what else? What else could we reduce? Could I reduce my monthly bills? Yeah. One streaming service, Netflix. I could lower it and watch ads. I could. I'm not gonna. Uh, I don't know. Like dining out, we could absolutely reduce that. But we're already really we're we struggle with this because sorry, I took another tea sip. My throat's been a little dry. With dining out, this isn't going to restaurants, y'all. We don't go to restaurants. This is any food that's not groceries, any food or drink that's not groceries. So if we get like the $1.50 hot dog at Costco, it counts for this. If we get like a bag of chips, it counts for this. If we go to a vending machine, it counts for this. This is not this is not us going to restaurants. This is not us like having dinners at like wherever. Like we're stricter than most people would be. Groceries. We can absolutely reduce this. Absolutely. I tried to reduce this and we burnt out on it basically. We were kind of eating the same thing all the time, and we would have to go to like 3 different stores to get groceries, which would increase how much gas I was spending and increase how much time we were going from store to store and waiting in multiple lines. And it became an issue. And I realized it wasn't worth the money we were saving in the additional stress. So that's going to be that. Transportation. Absolutely, we can lower this, but that would require Win to not be taking Ubers and Lyfts and me to never pay for parking. So this is actually lower than would be realistic. Like the budgeted amount is really lower than is realistic considering Win takes public transportation to work, and sometimes public transportation is not reliable, so he ends up running late, so he ends up taking rideshare. But yeah, I'll literally like say, oh, okay, we went over budget on transportation, so I'm not getting gas until my car is at 1/8 of a tank. I'm not getting gas until my car is at 1/8 of a tank, and we're just gonna have to take as few car trips as possible until like it builds back up again. But that's a struggle, y'all. That's a struggle. Health. We are never gonna restrict health if we can avoid it because Win has crappy insurance. I don't have health insurance. I do not have health insurance. What I have is veterans health benefits, VA health benefits, which means I can go to doctors at the VA hospital. I can get prescriptions at the VA hospital. But if I want to get like over-the-counter meds or anything like that, I have to pay for it, even from the VA. So for instance, I got prescribed vitamin D because I had vitamin D deficiency. I first made the mistake of getting vitamin D from the VA. And then I had to pay a $20 copay for 30 vitamin D pills. Absolutely not. Never doing that again. So, stuff like that. Like I don't have dental coverage. Win has dental coverage, but it's not good. So, stuff like that. Like health is not something we can really restrict. If the kids get sick, we're absolutely getting over-the-counter meds for them. We're absolutely getting like cold cough syrup and, whatever else. So that's not something that can be really restricted. Home shopping, we try to be good about that. We haven't really bought much for the house lately. But this is pretty low. Like we don't actually spend that much money. Birthdays, we're really only getting gifts. Well, on my side of the budget. I'm only getting gifts for the most important people in our lives. That is a couple of family members and a couple of really good friends. That's it. Clothing and shoes, we already talked about that. Wind runs through clothes real fast and in a hurry. I run through shoes occasionally. I don't run through clothes as much. But I do eventually, like after a while, I am gonna, pop a hole in a pair of socks. I'm gonna, like, a bra is going to stretch out and like rip. Like it's a thing that happens. And we can only do laundry so often before clothes start failing, because that's how that works. Like washing clothes breaks them down a little bit, especially if it has like elastic or something like that. So struggle's real. Pet care, that's already pretty bare bones. There's not much I can do about that. Personal, I can absolutely cut back on that. Will I? Absolutely not. I was restricting myself. Both of us really were. Both me and Win. Win and I were both restricting ourselves pretty badly when the worst of the debt was happening. And it was like, how do I put this? It was like when you put pressure, like you have a pressure, say you have a pressure cooker, right? The pressure builds up and builds up and builds up. And then it cooks. It's cooking, you're going, everything's great. And then at some point, the pressure is going to have to release. The steam is gonna have to release. You just gotta. Unfortunately, when you have ADHD or you have impulse control issues, that can happen at inopportune times. But we try to stay within reason. I try to not spend money unreasonably when I can avoid it. So should we cut back on personal spending? Yeah, absolutely. But considering these wants still only add up to 9% of our spending. Like, I'm okay with that. And we're pretty strict on what's a want. We're pretty strict on that. Birthdays, we don't have to spend anything on birthdays. Personal, that's a want. All my monthly bills, they're a want. They are. Like, I don't need Netflix. I don't need to get car washes every week. But considering the percentage that we're spending on it, I think it's worth it. Can everyone spend that much on wants? Probably not. But what we do is we try to make up for it with being really intentional with our investments and building up savings. So this is a really long video, and I'm sorry. If you stayed this long, I appreciate you so much. And I hope that this gave you at least a couple of ideas about what your needs are and what your wants are and what could potentially be considered an investment for you, and how you might want to analyze it and might want to adjust your budget for those things if that's something you want to do or something you need to do. I don't know if I've actually explicitly said this, but that's what these letters mean on the end here. That's me categorizing whether things are a want, a need, or an investment. So I try to think about this as we're going through the budget. I try to think about if something is really a want or a need, and sometimes I change the categories. So, like school, I used to consider school a need, but it's actually an investment. It does potentially increase our income in the future. It's just such a maybe that I was really reluctant to call it an investment, but it is an investment. So I changed that. But yeah, let me know what you think. And let me know if you analyze your spending. I know the 50, 30, 20 thing isn't for everyone. It isn't actually even for us, but it's kind of an ideal to aim towards as far as I'm concerned. Like, it would be fantastic if we could go towards that. So as close as we can get to those numbers as possible, I think would be great. So yeah, let me know what you think. I appreciate you so much. I love you. And I actually mean that. And never forget that you deserve financial stability. I hope you have a great day on purpose. Bye.